And a good Tuesday morning, Birds fans. Thanks for getting up and streaming in with us here on Birds 365. You got Mac and Mac, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. My apologies. We're a couple minutes late. That's me. I'm just getting ready for the show. I look up and check the clock. Oh, shoot, it's 8 o'clock. Yeah, you better stream in there, buddy. My bad. I apologize. But if it's a couple less minutes of pain in our review of what the hell's happened to the Eagles the last couple of weeks, maybe I'm actually doing you a favor by being a couple of minutes late. Johnny Mac, the licking of the wounds continues after the last 2 weeks. And I've been intrigued by statements made both after the game and by those talking and what needs to change and what needs to be done with this team. Give me your overall mindset on where you think this team is at, because it can't be in a great space, but it's got to be in a still belief in the team and we're going to get this thing turned around type space. You think they're okay in their mental footing right now heading off to Seattle next week?
I think for the most part, I think if you take a step back, and I know that's difficult in the moment, but, I think we both thought this was a likely loss before the season. At Dallas, we know how good they have been down there. The Eagles got the win up here. So, I felt it was going to be a split, and it was a split. Now, would you like to have been more competitive? Certainly. I'm more concerned about the San Francisco game, to be honest, because I think, they showed some matchup issues. If they're healthy, if they come into a potential playoff environment, how are the Eagles going to match up? So I'm still more concerned about San Francisco long term. Not that Dallas isn't a good team, but I think if the Eagles, adjust some things, play their A game, certainly play at Lincoln Financial Field, they can get over that hump. I don't know how they get over the San Francisco hump as they're currently constructed. Again, if everybody's healthy, and that's always the caveat, they're just, to me, a very difficult matchup for the Eagles as they're currently constructed. So some good, some bad. I don't think the sky is falling. It was always going to be difficult. There was always going to be hiccups. We've talked about expectations dating back to training camp. They're unrealistic, and then they got off to a 10-1 start. I don't know what you had. I think you were at 12 before the season, maybe 13.
13.
I was a game lower than you.
Yeah, we're close.
Yeah. I mean, it's what this league is. You saw it last night. You got teams fighting for playoff positioning. Green Bay, they lose to Tommy DeVito. They got a chance to make the playoffs, and they lay an egg against, a bad football team. Miami's got a chance to take that number 1 seed for the time being. They lose to not a bad football team, but an average football team at home as well. It ain't easy to win in this league, and it ain't easy to win against really good teams. So I think, and I wrote about this yesterday, I think the luxury the Eagles have, they're in the playoffs. They know they're going to play January football. Do they want the number 1 seed? Of course. Do they want to win the division? Of course. But they have that luxury to understand they're going to be in the mix, and they have some time to pick some things, and we'll see if they can do it. But there's some bad, but it's not all bad. Let's put it that way.
Let me follow up on a couple things that you said. And man, will I get the streamers ticked off about this one. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying the possibility of it happening is greater than 0. It's not a 0. Last night when the Packers lost, the San Francisco 49ers clinched a playoff spot. So the Eagles and the 49ers had the same record, but because of all the tie-breaking machinations, the 49ers are officially in. The Eagles aren't. Now, for the Eagles to make the playoffs, about 72 out of 72 things would have to happen. So it's a virtual playoff spot. It's not 100% yet.
No, it's come on. I mean, and we're not going to argue that. They're going to make the playoffs. That's not the issue. The issue is, where are you
See,
going to
I don't.
be?
Yeah, I'm not going there. If you want to go there, you can go there. And if I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm surely not going there. I don't want anyone on my facility to mention the fact, yeah, but we're in the playoffs. That's an attitude I want nowhere near my building. Even if McMullen knows it, McDonald knows it, the 53 guys on the roster know
And the
it's a
players,
virtual lie.
that's the point. The players know it. But I agree with your
And do you
sentiment.
think the players, knowing it, that they were as much a lock 2 weeks ago as they are now, that maybe that contributed to the 2 beatdowns they took?
No, I think they got
I don't know
outplayed.
that.
I think they got outplayed. If you look at the New York Times playoff simulator, they're 99+% to make the playoffs. So I mean, you can play that game. I don't like Nick Sirianni said. If you want to lie to yourself, if you want to use it any way you can. I'm just saying the reality of the situation is they have the luxury of understanding they're going to be in the playoffs. So do the Cowboys. Um, they understand that. The Giants, they have this big win with Tommy DeVito. They have a 2% chance of making the playoffs. So they can fool themselves as well. All they want. I don't care. Anybody can do whatever they want. My point is this team has the luxury of understanding they're going to be playing January football from a preparation standpoint and get as prepared as possible to get to that point. Now they still control their own destiny when it comes to the NFC East. If they finish off and win out, they still make things very difficult for San Francisco if they win out because they can't have any kind of hiccup. So there are
All
still.
right. Let me put this to you. See if you take it another way. I don't have it in front of me. I can do it almost off the top of my head. San Francisco's got the Ravens left, but then they've got 2, and the other team they're playing, the Rams, who were right around 500, just below 500. They got both of those games at home. They've got the Cardinals on the road and another really beatable team on the road, a well below 500 team. Who do you think's got a better chance to go 4-0 with their remaining schedules being what they are, the Eagles or the 49ers?
The 49ers. But, and again, I point to there's so many things happen in this league.
Including the Eagles going 0-4 and losing their last 6 games of the year.
That's not going to happen. They're playing the Arizona
John,
Cardinals.
I'm glad you got such a better computer to work or a crystal ball to work. If we're going to go, you don't know anything can happen, then you go, you don't know anything can happen.
I'm talking about
you can't say, I know the Eagles are going to make the playoffs. It's a 99% chance.
I'm talking about ball. I'm not going to waste my time on nonsense. So if you want to say 99% isn't 100%, I'll agree with you. Mathematically, they haven't clinched a playoff berth. Mathematically, they're not going to lose to Tommy DeVito twice. They're not going to lose to Jonathan Gannon's Cardinals. They might lose one of them of those 3 if they're playing really poorly. They're going to win one of them. And they might beat Seattle this week, and we're not even having this discussion. I'm saying it's a waste of time to worry about that kind of stuff. If you want to use it, use it. If you want to tell your players, like, I saw Chris Franklin. It's like playing the hits. It's like the Eagles playing the hits. He's going to be on the show at 9:20 saying, let me get the exact quote. The Eagles are playing this underdog. You're either with us or against us crap again. Oh, you're either with us or against us. If you want to use it and say people are bailing like you're bailing on them. That's fine. I don't care. They can use it. The reality is people pointing out they're not playing well doesn't mean you're against us. Now you got the one knucklehead showing up at NovaCare with the trash cans and, that's one guy. All right. He's an idiot. We can all agree with that. It's not an indication of anything pervasive, I would say, with the fan base. Certainly they're upset. There's a lot of things to worry about. Making the playoffs ain't one of them. I mean, but if people want to worry about it, feel free. But you're a betting guy. You're an odds guy.
Yeah.
99%, 99, by the way, I should say 99+%, which is what it is on the New York Times. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to worry about it. But if you want to waste time worrying about it, by all means.
Well, John, you
so.
did say that the Eagles can keep the 49ers out if the 49ers are home. I'm telling you, the 49ers have a better chance to go 4-0 than the Eagles. So if we're going to bring up something like that, yeah, that's got a better chance. The Eagles passing the 49ers have a better chance than the Eagles going 0-4. That is true. I know I'm playing to a very small percentage, but there's above the percentage and there's below the percentage. There's the 50-50 line. And the Eagles are on the short line of passing the 49ers and recapturing the overall first seed.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, they lost their advantage by losing to the 49ers. There's no doubt. They need help. They need the Ravens, most likely, to come through. But that's a good football team. And if the Ravens got their A game on a particular game day, they can beat anybody. That's my point. Are the other teams going to beat the 49ers? Probably not. The 49ers would have to play a really, really poor game or suffer some significant injuries to get, Washington, even the Rams, who could be playing for a playoff spot in Week 18. So they might be pushing, but they have Arizona as well. The Eagles have Arizona. They're at Washington. Washington's kind of, I think, given up on the season, and rightfully so. So, yeah, to pass the 49ers is a little bit pie in the sky probably right now.
Right. That was the one thing I was right, because you did lay it out and you didn't try and attempt to put a percentage on it, but you said the Eagles can keep the 49 Eagles. I think the Eagles are done on the first seed in that thing. And just my pick, making my prediction, I do not think the Eagles are getting the 1 seed. I do not think they're playing well enough, and San Francisco is playing much too well. And basically, I think that the 49ers have just as good a chance to win their last 4 games as the Eagles do. I think there's a better chance San Francisco goes 4-0 than the Eagles go 4-0 at this stage.
Well, the 49ers are better. I'm not arguing that. They're better than the Eagles right now. But they do have, if you combined the two teams, they have the toughest game in the final 8, and that's Baltimore, who's currently the number 1 seed on the AFC side. The Eagles' toughest game is Seattle. Now it's on the road. Very difficult place to play, but who knows where Geno Smith is? I've been seeing if he's ready to go yet. That would make it more difficult than Drew Lock. But yeah, I mean, the Eagles got to find a way. They got to find a way to stop the bleeding, number 1, and it would behoove them to win in Seattle. And if they can't win in Seattle, yeah, they're done as far as the number 1 seed goes. But if they don't win in Seattle, they're still making the playoffs. That's my only point. And then you got to go about it. It's going to be a much more difficult road, no doubt about that. And we've seen this team's 2 recent runs to the Super Bowl, and they ran through Lincoln Financial Field. So it becomes much more difficult if you have to go on the road, and particularly you have to go back to Dallas and or San Francisco, Santa Clara, and Arlington to be technical. Then I don't like their chances on paper. And you got to pull out a great performance on the road, which is far more difficult, no doubt about it.
Give me and maybe I lean on this a little too much, but there's number 1, because I enjoy it, but even more importantly, because I think it's the most accurate way to depict. The New York Times has their simulator. You're quoting those numbers to me. I'm not questioning the New York Times. I just don't even know how they come up with their odds for simulation. But I know in the betting markets, they've got one job and one job only. Put out the best, most accurate line so they can take action on both sides and take their percentage, take their vig. So there's no bias. There is no debate. It's their number, and they then if they have to move it, they move it one way or the other. I just think it's the most accurate way to look at things because no personal opinions being taken. It's all about algorithms and money. There is no individual motivation as to what you see. So I lean heavily on the betting markets to try and get a look at how I think things play themselves out going forward. But I'm going to ask you for an opinion instead because we don't have one of the two games in just yet. Who do you think is going to be a bigger favorite? Eagles in Seattle this week, which is already on the board at the Eagles, a 3.5-point favorite, or the 49ers at home against the Ravens. Which number do you think is better? Eagles favorite over the Seahawks or the 49ers favorite over the Ravens?
Probably the 49ers because they're playing so well, but and the Eagles are playing so poorly. So that factors into it. But I think Baltimore's the better team. So kind of like who has a far better team than Seattle. Now, I think San Francisco's better than the Eagles. So you can debate it back and forth. To me, the most difficult game for either team is Baltimore. I don't care where. Baltimore would obviously be much more difficult, but they're just significantly better than everybody else on the on each schedule. Seattle again is the toughest team for the Eagles. Good team, not great team, above average team, whatever adjective you want to use. Baltimore, significant Super Bowl contender. So to me, that's how I look at it. Yes, San Francisco is going to be a bigger favorite because, as I said, of how well they're playing at home. But that's a good football team, and nobody else can sit on that schedule and say, you know what, we're a really good football team that the Eagles are going to play or the 49ers are going to play. The Rams are okay, Seattle's okay, and they'll both be fighting for playoff spots, so they have plenty to play for. Because there's such a jumbled mess, and to go further about, the simulator, the New York Times, the Eagles are 69% right now to win the division, 20% to get the first round bye. So it's very unlikely they're going to get the first round bye, but 20% is, it's better than 2%, like the Giants. That's all you can look at.
And the Giants are 2% to get that number one seed. Giants are 2% just to make the playoffs. But I did watch that game last night, and at least the game in New York, the Giant fans are diehards, and they've been going forever, and they do support their team, and through way too much bad. Giants are an amazing franchise in that they're either like Super Bowl contenders or they're eminently forgettable, but their fans never forget them. They still pack the house every single game. And it would seem to be a pretty raucous crowd last night. They like this DeVito kid. Now, he made some bad passes last night, but he also made some pretty crisp and sharp passes and on the money in big spots. And he's more of a natural runner than Danny Dimes is. He made a couple of big plays with his legs. That 2%, as little as you think it could actually happen, and I do too, it's keeping the Giants in it. They could have rolled over and died on this season, and they haven't. So those two games that a lot of Eagle fans have already chalked up as lock wins, they got a revenge factor going for them because the Eagles spit in their eye 3 times last year. And if they're mathematically still involved, now that can go by the wayside by the end of this weekend. But don't just put them in pen, those 2 wins against the Giants. Giants are going to play the Eagles tough. Mark my words.
Well, you can't put any NFL win, but if you lose to Tommy DeVito and you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you deserve anything you get. So that's how I look at it. It's a good story. Sean Stiletto dressing up like a mobster, but there are a lot of Packers fans there. Troy and Joe mentioned it a bunch of times. The Packers fans. Now the Packers travel very well.
They do. They're one of the best traveling fan bases, right there with the Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles have taken over that stadium before. So Giants fans I agree with you. They're very loyal in general, but they've had so many bad seasons over the past number of years that they kind of give up late in the season. So Eagles fans They'll take over.
All right, and I'm just noting that despite, if you want to say the Packer fans were as loud or close to as loud as the Giant fans, Tommy DeVito was able to get over that last night and deliver a victory for the New York Giants. And if Eagle fans can get a whole bunch of seats at MetLife Stadium, Tommy DeVito may shrug his shoulders like he did last night against the Green Bay Packers. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald coming back. We get one of our faves up next. He's only been covering the Birds for a couple of years, or maybe it's more like a couple of decades. From Bowen with the Birds, Les Bowen's going to join us here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game